Today I'll be reading the classic fairy tale Rumplestiltskin. There once was a miller who was very poor, but he had a very beautiful daughter. Now, it happened one day that he had occasion to speak with the king, and in order to give himself an air of importance, the miller said, "I have a daughter who can spin gold out of straw." So the king said to the miller, "That is an art in which I am much interested. If your daughter is as skillful as you say she is, bring her to my castle tomorrow, and I will put her to the test." The next day, when the girl was brought to the castle, the king took her to a chamber that was quite full of straw and gave her a spinning wheel. "Now set to work," he said, "and if between tonight and tomorrow at dawn you have not spun this straw into gold, you must die." The king carefully locked the door of the chamber, and she remained alone. There sat the unfortunate miller's daughter, and for the life of her, she did not know what to do. She had not the least idea how to spin straw into gold, and she became more and more distressed until at last she began to cry. All at once, the door sprang open, and in stepped a little man who said, "Good evening, Mistress Miller. What are you weeping so for?" "Alas," answered the maiden, "I have got to spin gold out of straw, and I don't know how to do it." Then the little man said, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," said the maiden. The little man agreed. He sat down at the spinning wheel, and whir, whir, whir. In an instant, the reel was full. Then he put on another reel, and whir, 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 3 times around, and that, too, was full. And so it went on until morning, when all the straw was spun, and all the reels full of gold. With that, the little man took the necklace and disappeared. Immediately at sunrise, the king came into the chamber, and when he saw the piles of glittering gold, he was surprised and much pleased. But the sight made him even more greedy. So he had his guards take the miller's daughter to another chamber, much larger than the first one, and also full of straw, and again ordered her to spin all the straw into gold in one night, if she valued her life. The maiden was at her wit's end, and she began to weep. Once again, the door sprang open, and the little man appeared. "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold for you?" he asked. "The ring off my finger," answered the maiden. The little man took the ring, began to whir again at the wheel, and he had by morning spun all the straw into gold. The king was delighted at the sight of the piles of gold, but was still not satisfied. He had the miller's daughter taken into an even larger chamber full of straw and said, "Tonight you must spin all this gold, and if you succeed, you shall become my queen." "Even if she's only a miller's daughter," he thought, "I won't find a richer woman in the whole wide world." When the young girl was alone, the little man came to her again and said for the third time, "What will you give me if I spin the straw for you this time?" "I have nothing more that I can give," answered the maiden. "Well, promise me your first child if you become queen." "Who knows what may happen?" thought the miller's daughter. She didn't know what else to do, so she promised the little man what he asked, and again he spun the straw into gold. When the king arrived in the morning and found everything done as he wished, he soon kept his promise and married the miller's daughter, and she became queen. When 1 year had passed, a beautiful child was born to the queen. But by that time, she had forgotten all about the little man. One day, however, he suddenly entered the queen's chamber and said, "Now you must give me what you have promised." The queen was terrified, and she offered the little man all the wealth of the kingdom if he would let her keep her child. "No," he said, "I would rather have something living than all the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to moan and weep so much that the little man's heart softened and he felt sorry for her. "I will give you 3 days," he said, "and if within that time you discover my name, you may keep the child." During the night, the queen tried to remember all the names that she had ever heard, and she sent a messenger all over the country to ask far and wide what other names there were. When the little man came the next day, she began with Casper, Melchior, Balthazar, and mentioned all the names she knew, one after the other. But at every one, the little man said, "No, that's not my name." On the second day, she asked all around the neighborhood for the names of people living there, and then suggested to the little man all the most unusual, strange names. "Perhaps your name is Cowribs, Sprindleshanks, Lace Legs." But he answered every time, "No, that is not my name." On the third day, the queen's messenger returned to the castle. "I haven't been able to find any new names," he said, "but as I came around the corner of a wood on Lofty Mountain, where the fox says 'good night' to the hare, I saw a little house, and in front of the house was a fire burning, and around the fire an indescribably ridiculous little man was leaping and hopping on one leg and singing, 'Today I bake, tomorrow I brew my beer, the next day I will bring the queen's child here. Ah, lucky it is that no to soul does know the Rumplestiltskin is my name, ho ho.'" Now, you can imagine how delighted the queen was when she heard the name, and when, soon afterward, the little man came in and asked, "Now, your majesty, what is my name?" At first she asked, "Is your name Kunz?" "No." "Is it Heinz?" "No." "Is it, by chance, Rumplestiltskin?" "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" shrieked the little man in rage. He stamped his right foot into the ground so deep that he sank up to his waist. Then he jumped and flew out of the window, riding on a cooking spoon. The end.